Video of a TR-3B and a fleet of UFOs seen by over 1,000 people at a skywatching event at the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection Conference for 2024. The first legislative effort to regulate AI was vetoed by California Governor Gavin Newson. JP comes out on stage for the first time after his honorable discharge from the US Army on August 30. Prominent Aussie journalist Ross Coulthart plays up the flight safety and national security threat posed by UFOs in video footage of a Tic Tac shaped craft. These stories and more in Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to this October 5th edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. I just returned from the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection Conference in Colorado, and it was quite an event. A lot of firsts, and here is one of those firsts, and this concerns a skywatching event that was led by Elena Danaan, and there were over 1,000 people in attendance for this skywatching event. And Elena was told before the event that there would be a flyover by the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and that there would also be cooperation with the Earth Alliance, more popularly known as the White Hats, who are cooperating with the Galactic Federation. So was there going to be a UFO event that would be witnessed, photographed, and videotaped by over 1,000 people at this conference, which was in a highly urbanized area of the wider Denver metropolitan area, not that far from the airport, and also not that far as well from military facilities in places like Colorado Springs. So sure enough, the UFOs did show up. So what I'm going to show you first is one of the videos that show this fleet of UFOs that was witnessed by 1,000 people. So here is the video. Let me play it. It goes only for 20 seconds, and you get to see what I and many others witnessed that Elena Danaan had summoned. So here we go. So you can see some objects with different groups of UFOs there, flying in opposite directions.
Oh my God.
They were lighting up different colors. And this was just one of many videos taken of that particular incident. There were also other videos and photographs. I'm going to show you some more. Okay, this one we've just seen. We just saw that one. Here's a photo, a still shot of a TR-3B that was actually witnessed before the UFO fleets came along. And according to Elena Danaan, this TR-3B was a sign of the Earth Alliance cooperating with the Galactic Federation, that if the Galactic Federation just showed up on its own, that would have been somehow a problem with the kind of air safety, air defense system with NORAD. But because it was accompanied by the Earth Alliance, this was something that NORAD would not get too upset about, because as I kind of mentioned earlier, NORAD is actually headquartered out of Colorado Springs in Denver, only an hour and a half drive away, so not that far away at all. Here's another shot, and this was something that was very interesting, that this flying triangle, the lights actually shone on. So you had bright green lights being displayed by this flying triangle, so it did light up. That was very interesting. As I said, 1,000 people saw all of this. Okay, so here we have one of the other sightings of the craft. Let's see exactly what this one was all about. Unfortunately, these are not high quality videos because these are people just using their cameras. There was nothing really well organized about this skywatching event other than people showing up with their cameras, hoping to see something cool. Maybe next time we'll have professionals there to show more of what was seen. Okay, so those are some of the images. There's a few more that you can find if you go to Elena Danaan's website or Twitter feed. So she had quite a few videos and photos of the craft. So this was an amazing vindication for Elena Danaan that she is in touch with extraterrestrials, and that the group that she works with, the Galactic Federation, will cooperate with Earth authorities in showing up. And that's quite important, because if they can show up for 1,000 people, they can show up for 10,000 or 100,000. And so this, I think, is what we can anticipate in the future as we get closer and closer to disclosure. Now, here's a interview I did with George Kavassilas, return of the US Navy's SSPs, Jedi Admirals, and the Universal Space Council. So this was an interview with George Kavassilas. And George Kavassilas is a fairly well-known contactee from Australia. He has had some very profound contact experiences, and also has been involved in secret space programs that are linked to the US Air Force's secret space program, to the Navy secret space program, and the Australian contingent to that. Australia actually is one of the Five Eyes nations, and they do work very closely with the United States, Canada, Britain, and New Zealand in providing the resources, manpower, and expertise for the secret space program. So George Kavassilas says that he was part of that. And what is, I think, a very important development is that he claims that he was approached by extraterrestrials associated with this group called the Universal Space Council, and that he was told that a fleet of US Navy secret spacecraft that departed in the 1990s for interstellar space have recently returned, and that the admirals and the staffs of the admirals that led this mission, that they've come back very highly spiritually evolved, kind of like Jedi Knights. And so this is a very interesting development there, that you have these very highly evolved Jedi admirals associated with the US Navy. Now, this is something obviously that has to be proved, but George Kavassilas is very confident of the information he's received. He says that he has been in communication with these admirals and the Universal Space Council, and that he hopes to bring more information and some evidence supporting their existence soon. So that's very exciting, because I think this is really what's needed to push the disclosure process forward. Some very highly evolved humans or senior officials that have been out there in the galaxy interacting with extraterrestrials and are coming back to help us kind of like navigate this treacherous path forward, so that we don't succumb to the deep state machinations of seducing us into a kind of global war or global catastrophe, but we embrace this Star Trek future that these admirals want us to embark upon. So I think that's a very important development, and George Kavassilas is definitely someone worth listening to when it comes to this information about this return of the US Navy's secret space program, or the Jedi Admirals. So there'll be more information about that. I do plan to do a webinar with a panel featuring George, Alex Collier and JP. So you can look forward to the announcement for that next week. I will be announcing that. That'll be held on October 19. So an announcement will be forthcoming soon, and we are going to be focusing on the US Navy Secret Space Program and this return of these enlightened or Jedi Admirals. So very exciting. Here's something that caught my attention that I think has a lot of exopolitical significance. This is the first legislative effort to regulate AI, artificial intelligence, was vetoed by California Governor Gavin Newsom. And why did he veto this? Well, Gavin Newsom was influenced by deep state officials such as Nancy Pelosi, who wanted the AI industry to be unregulated. They basically want to conduct whatever projects, whatever experiments that they want with AI to be done without any kind of state regulation at all, while employees of major tech companies supported this AI regulation because this AI regulation would give protection to whistleblowers speaking about the dangers of AI development. So this is very sad that you have this legislation that would have given some protection for whistleblowers to talk about the dangers of AI development, and that was vetoed by Gavin Newsom, who is definitely a deep state asset. So California and the US is plunging towards the unregulated rollout of AI. What can go wrong? Well, obviously I'm being ironic there. A lot can go wrong. We really do need to make sure that AI is regulated, but it appears that the state of California under Gavin Newsom is not going to be playing a leadership role in that regard. Here it was some sad news. Dr. Robert Wood, his memorial service was scheduled for the last day of the GSIC conference. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to participate in that. Dr. Wood was a very good friend and colleague. We worked together on the William Tompkins case since since early 2016. We worked on the William Tompkins case. Before that, we had worked on various Majestic 12 documents. So I had known Dr. Wood since 2004 when we first did an X-conference together in the Gaithersburg area of Washington, D.C. He was a true scholar and gentleman. He, as I mentioned, was the person who really was instrumental in publishing William Tompkins' book and the successive books selected by extraterrestrials. There's 3 volumes, and a 4th volume is still under preparation for release. And he also authenticated the MJ12 documents with his son, Ryan. He's probably best known for his efforts to authenticate these MJ12 documents. And one of the documents that I've referred to quite a lot and that he also was very interested in was this 1989 Defense Intelligence Agency briefing document for an incoming director of the Majestic 12 group, which Dr. Wood believed was Dr. Philip Morrison, who Bob knew personally. So a very important researcher. He will definitely be missed. He was a great supporter and friend, and so I was very sad that, of course, that he passed. But I do believe he's, from the other side, he's going to be helping us move forward with disclosure. Okay, so here's a video from Jeremy. Let's see, Jeremy Kenyon distributed this, made this tweet, and it concerns a clip about USOs, unidentified submerged. And this is something that was posted on an episode of Weaponized. So that's Jeremy Corbell. So let's listen to what he has to say about USOs.
If UFO activity is more under the water than it is in the sky, it would make sense that there would be more sensitivity about UAP under the water specifically because a lot of our greatest and most tight-hold assets are underwater assets from recording devices, both audibly and visually. That's why they always say in hearings, closed session.
Do we have any sensors underwater to detect on submerged UAPs? Anything that is in the ocean or in the seas?
So I think that would be more appropriately addressed in closed sessions.
You are revealing some of the people that have allegedly dealt with these crash retrieval programs. I was told many, many years ago from some of the initial contacts I've had with high-ranking people that I should be looking at USOs. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've got a submarine. So this has always been a topic that seems to be really important. But additionally, Chris, you're exposing some.
From my understanding, Bobby Ray Inman used to be one of its directors. So did the former Senator John Warner as well. So yeah, it's something that not a lot of people talk about.
All right, so there you have a clip from an episode of Weaponized that Jeremy Corbell participated in along with George Knapp. And what I totally agree with the USO phenomenon is a very important aspect of the UFO UAP phenomenon, and that the Navy's role is really critical in understanding what is going on here in terms of evidence of underwater spacecraft. Now, I have to mention that there are military servicemen who have come forward, such as JP, who've seen some of the underwater assets of extraterrestrials and ancient civilizations. And so, we have witnesses. I mean, there's quite a lot of witnesses of craft seen above the water, but JP is among the few that has seen these craft, and he's been on board these craft under the water, that have gone under the water because he was taken on the craft. So this is probably the next step of the disclosure process, when mainstream researchers such as Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Chris Sharp, people like them and others start to look seriously at the evidence or the testimonies of those who have been inside of these craft and been taken under the oceans, been taken to underwater civilizations and had experiences in those places, or to underwater space arcs. So there's definitely happening a lot under the water. Now, Admiral Bobby Ray Inman was mentioned. Now, interestingly, I actually did manage to have a phone call with Admiral Inman back in 2017, and it was a very strange call. I phoned him to say, hey, William Tompkins has talked about you and said that you were the guy that was responsible for having all of these major corporations deal with various reverse engineering projects. And he did a kind of denial, but it was a non-denial denial, if that makes any sense, because he denied what William Tompkins said, but then went on to describe his role in doing exactly what William Tompkins said he was doing, which is that he was involved in work liaising with different corporations and sharing advanced technologies with them so that they could develop them. So which was what William Tompkins was saying. And he also mentioned something very interesting in our conversation as well. And I included this in my book on William Tompkins, the U.S. Navy's secret space program. So, the transcript of my conversation with Admiral Inman is there. But he also talked about the National Underwater Reconnaissance Office. I mean, I had never heard of that at the time. I mean, we all know of the National Reconnaissance Office that tracks UFOs or tracks satellites and tracks objects in space, and deals with satellites and so forth. I hadn't realized that there was a National Underwater Reconnaissance Office, and that Admiral Inman actually headed this for a while. So very, very interesting. So, I would say that anyone interested in USOs really needs to, first of all, be familiar with Admiral Inman, maybe see if he's willing to share more of what he knows, but also learn more about this National Underwater Reconnaissance Office. Exactly what is it that those guys do there? So very interesting. So USOs are important. Okay, so here's something that was very significant in terms of the work I've been doing and what I've been sharing with the public for 7 years now, ever since I started putting out information, videos, photographs, stories about JP and his interaction with secret space programs and different extraterrestrials. So JP, as I announced last week, was given an honorable discharge from the U.S. Army on August 30, and he was given retired status with permanent disability because of injuries he sustained during his service, and some of those injuries are related to UFOs. And I released his DD 214 in redacted form, so that's in Volume 3 of U.S. Army Insiders 3. So, for people that want evidence, documentation, it's there. You just take a look at the book and you can see that. And JP does get a percentage of all the book sales. So that does actually assist JP for those that do buy the book. So JP is out of the military, and so he is now able to play a more prominent role publicly. All right, so this is JP. He is being warmly received by the audience. There's some very inspirational music playing, but I cannot play that because of copyright infringement from YouTube. So there's over 1,000 people attending the Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. So this is JP's first public appearance. He's wearing the helmet because he still wants to protect his identity, and there is a very real possibility, he's already been approached, there's a very real possibility that he will be enlisting with another military service that will be making him an offer. And so that's why he is still wanting to keep his identity secret, to keep his options open. For someone like JP, who's been working in secret space programs, meeting extraterrestrials, going to encountering ancient civilizations, artifacts and technologies. As you could imagine, there is a demand for people like him in the military services and in corporations. So he is getting offers to join, whether it's going to be a corporation, whether it's going to be the military. So we will see how that all plays out. One of the things that I was told is that if, for example, this will be one of the benefits if he rejoins one of the military services, is that he will be given access to advanced healing technologies, so that permanent disability that he suffered as a result of his service, that will be healed rather than treated. So that's something that we all look forward to. So so JP is officially out now. So that's a very exciting development. Here is a tweet from Ross Coulthart, who is a very prominent Australian journalist, and he discussed this video clip, or he discussed something concerning a UFO that he had seen that was shaped like a Tic Tac, that he believed to be a national security threat, or at least it was a flight safety risk. So let's listen to this clip where he talks about this object that was seen flying near an aircraft that is shaped like a Tic Tac, that he believes was a flight safety risk and falls into this national security threat category. So let's play this for you so you can hear for yourself what Ross Coulthart had to say.
Yeah, well, there is the Tic Tac object, which is extraordinary. I mean, you basically show And it does. It looks like a Tic Tac underneath an aircraft. A cylindrical object passes right beside an aircraft at speed during the day. It's a very clear image. And the slow-mo at around about 49 seconds shows how close it came to the aircraft. I held my breath when I saw this because I thought, one, you've captured a Tic Tac, and two, it's right beside an aircraft. I'm not surprised that Homeland Security and FBI and other agencies are interested in your work.
All right, so there you get Ross Coulthart expressing his concern over how close this Tic Tac shaped craft got to an aircraft, and that this was something that would lead to the interest of the FBI, Homeland Security, and so forth. And in his tweet, Ross Coulthart did actually acknowledge, as you see here, that UAPs are a flight safety and potential national security threat. So this is where I have to point out that that we have had UFOs interacting with these different types of craft, whether it's military craft, civilian aircraft. They've been interacting with those for decades. And there have been very few instances of UFOs actually crashing into or shooting down aircraft. You know, there was a period in the 1950s where President Truman did give shoot-down orders to the US Air Force against UFOs, and a number of aircraft were lost. And that is something that is a matter of the public record. But apart from that short period of time, there are very few instances of where UFOs are associated with aircraft being brought down or interfered with in ways that make them inoperable or a safety threat. And as far as the national security element is concerned, well, up until 2017, despite hundreds, even thousands of cases of UFOs flying up close to aircraft, I mean, they were always dismissed as not posing a national security threat. So why is that now all of a sudden front and center, the way in which we should understand the UFO phenomenon? If since the 1940s up until 2017, we're talking over a 70-year period, if UFOs were not considered a national security threat, even though they would often be seen very close to aircraft, and provided that they weren't crashing into or shooting down the aircraft, why should we deem them to be a national security threat or even a flight safety threat, given that there's just very little evidence that they were doing anything? So I just am concerned that, you know, there is this overemphasis, or there's this attempt to play up the national security threat and flight safety concerns raised by UFOs. Now, I suspect that part of that is because journalists like Ross Coulthart and others like Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, I mean, they, I think, want this UFO issue to be taken seriously by members of Congress, by the mass media. And it seems that you have to make this kind of Faustian bargain where if you want UFOs to be taken seriously, then you have to talk about them in terms of, oh, they're a flight safety risk, oh, they're a national security threat, when they really neither, when you look at all the historical data. Okay, here's something Vicky Verma posted on his Twitter feed that I thought was a very interesting series of tweets concerning the death of Stanley Kubrick just 4 days after he presented Warner Brothers with the final cut of his film Eyes Wide Shut. And as he says here, that Kubrick's friends and families and the cast and crew all claimed that Kubrick's death was totally unexpected and he didn't seem to be in poor health while making the film. So right there, you have some suspicion. Now, the other aspect of Kubrick's death was that he died in a way that was very, very similar to how one of the characters in this movie died as well. Now, this movie, it shows a satanic cult operating in the New York area, and that they are performing a very bizarre rituals, and that the sex is involved in this. So people watch the movie Eyes Wide Shut. It looks very dark, satanic, a lot of kind of like sex scenes in there, showing how sex is part of how this cult operates, but only hints of human sacrifice. And I think that was the thing that most people believe got Kubrick killed, that Kubrick actually did want to put more into this film, depicting sacrifice, human sacrifice associated with these kinds of satanic cults. And so there's been a lot of debate over whether or not there are these, there's a kind of missing 20 or 30 minutes that Kubrick wanted to include that did depict human sacrifice in Eyes Wide Shut. Now, Vicky Verma is kind of like skeptical whether that missing 20, 30 minutes does exist or not. But nevertheless, there are some very credible people that believe that this was what Kubrick wanted to do, to really show that this was that these satanic cults not only practice strange rituals and also were very much involved in kind of like sex rituals and practices, but that they were also doing human sacrifice. So that's obviously very, very controversial. Okay, so here's JP's update number 38. So this just came out this week. It came out first on Patreon. So I want to give a shout out to all of my Patreon subscribers. Thank you for your support. It really does make a difference. And what I do as a gift to all my Patreon subscribers is they get early access now to all of my videos that are published on Exopolitics Today, on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and other platforms that Patreon subscribers get early access 3 or 4 days before you can watch these. So this particular update on JP was first made available on Patreon, then on YouTube and Rumble and Spotify, and it discusses JP's recall of him doing a mission to the rings of Saturn. So JP, in earlier updates, he described going to a military facility, being tested for a future mission to Saturn, and that when he finished that testing and he came away from that facility, he saw his debriefer, a more senior officer, and the officer and JP told him about being tested for a future mission to Saturn, and the officer said, "Are you sure you haven't already been?" And so JP was a little kind of taken aback at that. It's like, "Whoa, no, well, I don't remember anything," and so he went away and started to think about it. Well, he didn't remember anything. Well, in September, he remembered. He had full recall, and this is what this update is all about, where he talks about going to the rings of Saturn, being part of a mining expedition, and being on a craft that was loaned or jointly developed with the Anak Empire or the Anunnaki, as they are also known. So that's the update. So definitely take a look at it. You can watch it on different platforms. All right, so today actually is the next monthly live briefing that I am doing through Crowdcast and Patreon. Now, you could attend this webinar as a Patreon member. You need to be a solar patron, which is the second tier. Or if you didn't want to join Patreon, you could do it just through Crowdcast, and that way you would have to do the registration through PayPal. If you follow the link here, it'll take you to my website, exopolitics.org, and just scroll through that, and it will give you the information for this webinar in terms of either doing it through Crowdcast, doing it through Patreon and Crowdcast, or doing it through PayPal. Now, in this webinar, what I will be doing is first giving an update on the top 5 Exopolitics Today news stories for the last 30 days. Then I'm going to be looking at geopolitical events from an exopolitical perspective, giving you a teaser for upcoming interviews that are going to be released in the following week. And finally, we'll spend 1 hour, at least an hour, on Q&A. So really, this is a great opportunity if you have a lot of questions that you can do this monthly live briefing. We do have extra time for Q&A, whereas when I do my normal webinars, they typically take 2.5 hours, and I have a 30-minute Q&A. So this particular monthly live briefing, there's more time for Q&A. So definitely you can attend that if you'd like, and get to hear more about contemporary events, geopolitical events from an exopolitical perspective. Now, here's something that I did, which was new. I do like to try out new things. So this was an invitation I received from the tweet, someone with the profile Merdaddy TM or Duma Zaddy. His name is Ulrich, and he has a very interesting X Spaces where he, along with 2 other colleagues, they actually interview various individuals. So I did a 3-hour interview with him and his colleagues, and this was his colleagues are Fringe.com and Tiftastic 369, and I really found it a very stimulating interview. We covered a lot of information, 3 hours, a lot of information. So you can actually listen to the recording. It's all for free. It's all on Twitter Spaces. It's all audio only, and we definitely cover a lot of ground. So there is that opportunity to kind of like listen to me being interviewed by someone who's and I was very impressed with Ulrich's knowledge of the exopolitics field, someone that definitely has a good handle on some of the key issues. He maybe has a little more of a pessimistic view about the future, but as far as the understanding of what's happened, we seem to be very close in our analysis. So I did appreciate that. So, yep, this is another tweet or X post promoting the session or the interview I did, and yes, so just you can click those tweets. Well, this tweet here, that'll take you straight to the recording, and you can listen to it. So that is it for this week's Week in Review. Just remember, I do have a webinar today, the monthly briefing, and I will be soon releasing information on my next major webinar, where I'll be having a panel featuring Alex Collier, George Kavassilas, and JP and myself, where we'll be discussing the US Navy Secret Space Program. So you can keep a lookout for that. That'll come out this weekend, the first announcements for that, and next week. So thank you for watching, and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.